Hey everyone, so we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a tutorial on doing tutorials. I've compiled a list of a bunch of different hints and tips which I'm just going to go through really quickly and then show you a few handy things you can do with your computer to make doing tutorials a whole lot easier. Okay, first of all, why do you want to learn? Finding and keeping your motivation. Be curious about the world. Find things that interest you and then dive into them a little bit. I wanted to learn how to make computer games, so I started by learning how to 3D model, and then I eventually ended up learning how to program. No skill or knowledge is worthless. Often you'll learn a new skill that may not be directly applicable to what you're currently doing, but it may be something that comes of use down the track, or it may lead you to wanting to learn something new. Okay, in terms of keeping up motivation, engaging with online communities helps a lot, I've found. Unity has a very good community. Unity is a 3D games engine, but most pieces of software, so like Photoshop or 3ds Max or any kind of 3D modeling or programming communities, they often have a forum, and forums are a great place to ask questions. And the best thing is that there's usually people of a wide variety of skills from beginners to advanced, so if you have questions, it's always good to ask on forums and get pointed in the right direction. It's also a great place for discovering and learning what's going on within the community and within the software that you're trying to learn. Let's have a look here. Share what you create with family and friends. It's good and it's okay to be proud and excited of the hard work that you've done. So if you've created a cool 3D character, show your family and friends, share it on the forums or different communities that you're involved with. There's nothing wrong with sharing your own work if it's something that you're proud of. This is a big problem for a lot of artists. I find a lot of artists don't share things until they're absolutely 100% okay with it. Perfectionists, I think they call them. But try not to be that person because you won't get honest feedback that way. Feeling dumb is a part of learning. Yes, it is. You'll often fire up a tutorial and you'll get halfway through and you realize that they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. This is okay. Because at that point you know that you're not up to that level yet, and you might need to backtrack a little bit. So say, for example, if I was learning to make this spherical shader mask in Unity here, right? I know how to place a sphere, and I know how to do some of these calculations, but I'm not exactly sure when it gets down to doing the shader programming up here that I really know what's going on. So I can go back and look up a Fundamentals Noob to Pro Unity Shader Writing for Beginners. So shader writing for beginners here. So then I can find at what level I'm actually at in this skill set. Keeping lists and pictures of things that you would like to learn, things that are inspiring, things that are going to make you want to do and learn more. I use Pinterest myself as my go-to for keeping all of my visual inspiration, generative ideas, programming ideas. So for example, if I'm ever feeling a little bit kind of lost for something to do, I'll jump on here. Actually, just the other day, I fired this image up and I was like, I bet I could make that in Unity in real time for visuals for a festival that I'm doing. So I opened it up and I spent a couple of hours practicing off this image. Let's have a look. What else have we got here? So yeah, again, here. So this is an image that I would take and go, that's something interesting that I would like to try and be able to recreate. And look up tutorials on how this is done. So this one's done, I think, in Cinema. Oh, this is actually a real life sculpture. Well, it looks like it's made in 3D. There you go. So maybe I would want to go jump on Instructables and find out more about papercraft and creating paper sculptures. So see, here we go. On Instructables, a great site for all kinds of tutorials, all hands-on stuff, as well as digital and software tutorials. But here we go. I can make a paper shark, a paper ram's head, loads of cool stuff. And that's just from a simple look around on my Pinterest board, a little bit of inspiration, bam, let's make a paper ram's head. Where are we? Back here. Let's get through this list. Okay, what do you want to learn at finding what's right for you? Think of a project that you've always wanted to do. Do you want to make computer games? Do you want to learn to make 3D objects? Do you want to make a song? Do you want to do papercraft? If you do, there are tutorials online to do pretty much anything, and for the most part, a lot of them are free. So this site that I mentioned before, Instructables, has loads of cool stuff. We're compiling a list at the lab for everyone to peruse as well, with a bunch of different relevant tutorials. So, and also if you just Google, so let's just have a try at whatever we want to find. Let's go Photoshop tutorial free, right? Big part of learning how to tutorial is learning how to find them and learning how to Google. 6 places to learn Photoshop for free, or almost free. And here we go, there's a bunch of different sites here that have Photoshop tutorials. You can do the same thing for anything pretty much. You can do Unity, 3ds Max, Maya, processing, learn programming, all those kinds of things. Okay, another cool thing is when you're learning new skills, and it's part of the motivation thing as well, is do you have any friends or colleagues or anything like that that your skills might work well with? If you're learning to play the guitar, do you have a friend who's learning to play the drums? Maybe you guys could make a band together. If you're learning 3D, do you have a friend who knows a little bit of programming? If you can make 3D models and your friend can program, you can begin to make computer games. Those kinds of things. So it's always nice to be able to learn alongside somebody because you motivate each other, you both get interested in something, and it kind of you spur each other along to learn and to do better. Looking online for tutorials to see what's available. Like I said before, there's vast amounts of everything available online, mostly for free. Okay, this is a big one too, assessing a tutorial. So if you find a tutorial, right, what software do you need? Are there any prerequisite skills? And are there any other tutorials that are going to get you prerequisite skills? Like I said before, say with this Unity shader tutorial here, if I realized that I wasn't able to do all this code here, I then go Unity learn shaders beginner, and then I get beginner's courses in learning to write shaders. So then I know that I can get to that point. In this case, these tutorials need Unity, which means I need to go and download unity3d.com. So I need to install software on my computer before I can get started. Now, there are a bunch of really cool new tutorials coming out where inside of your actual browser you can actually do the tutorial as well. So for a book of shaders is a great example of that. Now, where have we gone? Book of shaders. Okay, so this is a tutorial on how to program shaders, which are kind of, there you go, OpenGL doesn't want to work. Okay, so that's maybe not the best example at the moment, so let's go to code.org/learn. And let's pick one of these tutorials. Now, code.org/learn is a fantastic resource, especially for younger people as well. So it actually splits it up into normal grades. And a lot of these tutorials here are able to be done inside of the browser. So let's have a quick look. Let's find one. Where's that blocks one? Let's try this one. Let's see how it goes. Now the great thing is, yeah, here we go. So it requires a sign-in, but other than that, you're given a you're given all the tools inside of your browser that you need to actually start working on the tutorial. That means you don't need to install anything, especially if you're working on somebody else's computer, which is also great. When you're getting ready to do tutorials, clear your desk. Work with a tidy desk. I even got a little tidy desk thing here. Look, I don't always do it, but I know that when I do it, I feel like my mind is less cluttered, I'm less distracted, I'm less likely to fidget. So clean your desk. Another good one is having a notepad and pen. Like, I know we have computers and I know we can write notes in documents like this, but sometimes you just need to work things out with a pen and paper. And it also, I'm not sure if this is 100% science, but I'm pretty sure writing things down actually helps you remember them as well. So always keep a notepad and pen at your desk. Keep a glass of water and some fruit as well, because if you lock in for a big session of tutorials, you may get in the zone and then next thing you know, you haven't drank water for the last 4 hours. So always good idea to do that. Use to-do lists. To-do lists are great. So I've got one here for a project that I'm working on. I've split up into current tasks, coding tasks, feature wish list, user interface, and project management tasks. A good idea to try and break your tasks down into smaller chunks, and then again, so inside of this task, I've got it broken down into even smaller chunks. The idea there is that if you break your tasks down, if I go in and I can tick this off, and this off, or even just one of them, it feels like I've accomplished something for the day. You get that little reward of, oh yeah, sweet, I get to tick something off my list. So that's always good to do. Remember to break your tasks down. If I had code this whole project as one task, I would never really feel that accomplishment while I'm going throughout my project. Same works with tutorials as well. Keep a list of tutorials that you have completed in case you want to go back to them. That's always a good one, because often I've done tutorials and not kept that list and gone, oh geez, I really wish I could go back and figure out what it was or what that tiny little thing is that I've forgotten. So always keep a list of tutes that you've done. And keep a list of interesting tutorials that you want to do as well. Now, this is a big one for those of you that are easily distracted. There is a cool plugin for Chrome, and I'm pretty sure there's one for Firefox as well, called Strict Workflow. Now, this does something really cool, because often you open another tab and you just start typing Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is, and you're already on there, right? You're already distracted. So what Strict Workflow does is, it's this little tomato up in the corner. If I click that, it gives me a timer, so 25-minute timer. I go to type Facebook, and it's going to lock me out of it. You've been blocked because there's a timer. This is fantastic. What it does is it blocks out all the websites that are distracting, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, all those YouTube, all those types of things that distract you from actually doing your work. You can take websites off it, like YouTube, because often you might want to use YouTube for actually doing video tutorials. And it has a 25-minute timer, and then after that 25 minutes, you click it again, you get a 5-minute break, and you can have a look at your websites and stuff. And then you click it again at the end of that 5-minute timer, and you're back into your workflow. It's actually called the Pomodoro Technique of working. So you work in 25-minute blocks, have 5-minute break, 25-minute block, 5-minute break. Alrighty, we're getting through this. Now, this is a bit of a technical issue, docking windows, so how to use your computer effectively. So, say for example, I had, it's blocked YouTube out now. Say for example, I had, say this document was a tutorial, right? Now, I want to look at this tutorial at the same time as I want to look at Unity here. But if I've got Unity open, I can't look at the tutorial at the same time when they're both in the same space. So what I can do is, if you hold the Windows key down and press the left or right arrows, you see here that it's snapping the window to the side of the screen. So that means if I snap it to this right-hand side using Windows right, let go, then it gives me a list of other windows that I can have open. So I might click Unity. So now I can come into Unity, zoom around, do all my stuff in here while reading through the tutorial on the right-hand side. Now, this may not always be a good option, because you may have software which needs this much of the screen, right? A lot of creative software has a lot going on visually, so you really need all of your screen real estate. That being the case, sometimes it may be sometimes best to have your application that you're learning in full screen. Then you can Alt and Tab, hold down the Alt key and hit Tab, and then select what it is that you want to go to. So, for example, I might have my video here that I'm learning from, and then Alt Tab back into my software, do the little section that I was just working on in the tutorial, learning about in the tutorial, Alt Tab, and then go back to that, Alt Tab, back to that one. So this is especially handy if you have restricted screen real estate. Being in the creative tech industry, I've often got 2 monitors or a very large monitor, so it's much easier to just have them side by side. But if you're not in that situation, it might often be best to just use the Alt-Tab key. So just a reminder, that's Alt-Tab to tab between projects, and Windows key right and left to dock your windows. Okay, leave the programs that you're learning open. Now, I know before I said try and have an uncluttered desktop and also uncluttered computer, but if you leave these projects open, when you come back to your computer, it's way less of a hassle to get started again. So, for example, I might leave this tutorial here open, so then next time I come back like, oh, that's right, the shark tutorial, right? So I was going to do that. Or I might leave my Unity project open here, which might take a couple of minutes to load. So then when I come back, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I was halfway through doing that tutorial. Let's continue doing that. So it's a good idea to try and keep your software open on your computer if it's your computer and you don't have to share it with other people. Okay, and just a few doing tutorial tips and tricks. Always try and read and at least skim through most of the content first, so you understand the basic concept of what is being taught and how it's being taught. So again, for example, I can't go back to YouTube because I locked myself out. With the shader tutorial before, I could go into that. I could see at the start they're talking about what they're going to do. They're showing examples. Then there's a section where they're showing how to code. Then at the end they're showing how they implemented it. So with that knowledge, I can then go, okay, cool. So most of the meat of the tutorial is in the middle, and the conceptual stuff is on either side of that, and the technical stuff is on either side of that. So always read through the content first, so you have an understanding of the overall goal before you start trying to follow along. If you just fire up a tutorial video and then if I started this up and just started following along from the very start, I'm going to have to stop and go back to my software.
Let's get started.
This is the next step. Stop, go back to my software, and you're not going to take in the overall concept of what's being taught if you try learning that way. Making notes of particular points in a video. Now, with YouTube, you can right-click on the timeline and get a link for the video at that current time. So this is a part of your note-taking process. So if you're doing a YouTube video tutorial, right-click, that will get you the video at that time, and then paste it in your, say you've got your list here, you might want to add a new card, just go to YouTube tutorial, and then you might have a checklist here of the different segments in the video. So going to code, learning the shaders, all kinds of stuff. So keep a list of interesting parts of tutorials, especially if they're very long, long tutorials over 20-30 minutes. Set daily practice goals for yourself. And this kind of goes hand in hand with keeping your software open, setting reminders for yourself. Have a project and have an idea that you want to learn, and have small steps along the way that you can achieve. Try and do it daily. If daily doesn't work for your routine, try and do it, once every few days. And if that doesn't work, make it once a week. Try and make it a habit. Something that might seem a little bit like hard work at the start will start feeling like a lot more fun when you get a little bit more of it down and you understand a little bit more of it. And here is another handy hint that I actually got from a friend when I asked about tips to give people for tutorials, is if you don't get something, try explaining it to somebody else. So if I was explained a concept about how to build a 3D mesh out of triangles, and I'd done a few tutorials, but it wasn't quite sinking in, find somebody who has no idea what you're talking about and try and explain it to them, because that will allow you to understand where you're actually getting stuck in the concept, and then go back and, using your magical Google powers, find what it is that find the knowledge that you're missing. Okay, so that's been a quick rundown of tutorial tips and tricks. I'm going to make this document publicly accessible, and I'm going to leave a space down here for questions. If anybody has any questions or any kind of follow-up, please pop them in this document and I can add them to the list. Thank you for listening, and happy tutorialing.